Love is the clarity of perception, appropriateness of action. St. Paul very beautifully speaks about love in the letter to the Corinthians and says, love is patient. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongdoing. It forgives and forgets. John in his letter speaks about love as a manifestation of God's graces. He speaks about love as God Himself. More so, we find in the Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 16, God so loved the world that He sent His only begotten Son, that we may have life, life in its fullness. In retrospective, when we look back to the Old Testament, we see how God showed His love to the people of Israel. Despite their failing and sinful past, God sent judges, patriarchs, prophets, so that they could comprehend His love for them. In the fullness of time, God sent His Son so that the love that has been poured out to the people may be more and more adjustable to everyone. And that's basically what we find in the four Gospels, wherein Jesus made Himself one like any other human person except sin. And thereby, He became an embodiment of love. My dear brothers and sisters, today's Gospel can be understood in the light of the way by which God, Yahweh, manifests His love to each and every person, especially to the people of Israel, and in our context, to each of us. Jesus, in a way, summarizes the Torah and the commandments into two perspectives: love of God and love of the neighbor. When we minutely look and read those verses again, the word all is repeated nearly 8 times. All symbolizes wholeness, completeness, nothing to be left aside or segregated from our desire to love God and the neighbor. But then, because of our human tendencies, we tend to give God sometimes the second place or third place, or we remember God when we are in distress, when we face challenges and trials of life. Blaise Pascal very beautifully said, there is a vacuum in the heart of every person, and this vacuum can be filled only by the risen Christ. But many a times, this emptiness and vacuum that is within us, we fill with earthly desires. Persons become important to us, and we keep God aside. Perhaps today's gospel invites us to have an introspection within ourselves and perhaps ask a question: am I loving God and the neighbor as I am supposed to? Or do I give God second or third place in my life? What does loving God entails? It means that we give importance to the scriptures, the sacraments, the way by which we come in intimacy with God, and thereby we will be able to love God wholeheartedly. St. Ignatius very beautifully in his spiritual exercises number 104 speaks about a grace that each of us need to ask, both while making a retreat in our daily life, that I may be able to love God wholeheartedly, with my mind, with my soul, and with my understanding, that I may imitate Him closely. Perhaps these words of Ignatius could help us to look within ourselves and of our desires to love God. When we are able to love God who is not visible to our senses, those persons who are visible to our senses, and to love them will become much easier, or vice versa. When we love people who are significant to us, our own family members, our neighbors, and people who are important to us, and when we manifest our goodness towards them, we will be able to do the same with God and with people of all walks of life. What better example can we have than the saint of the day? Saint John of God is considered as a compassionate saint who manifests his charity day in and day out, responding to the signs of the times and to the people in a meaningful manner. We seek graces through Him. We seek this great virtue of love, which Paul very beautifully speaks in the first letter of Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 13. Love, hope, and faith, and the greatest of all is love. May we be imbued by this great virtue of love, manifest it to God and to our fellow brothers and sisters.